Hello, everybody. We're going to talk briefly about brief psychotherapy, which is solution focused. Uh, just a little. This is what we will be covering briefly. The premise of brief solution focused therapy is that it's focusing on current problems, current things that are going on here and now, not really looking at the past. And it's based on the premise that you don't have to process problems, go back to the past and other influences to solve them. Does believe that solutions can be attained and changes made in a brief amount of time, and usually there are 6 to 20 sessions, and they're focused on a specific problem. They focus on change and things that are actionable, things you can do to change your circumstance or face your problem. And they're very goal oriented. They empower the client with skills that they can then apply. It helps the client to gain insight into their own issues and behaviors that may be contributing to the problem. And it really is based on instilling hope that change is possible, things can be better, you can do this. And you can apply this type of therapy to both. It's been applied successfully to both individuals, to couples, and to families. The assumptions of this type of therapy is that change is constant and certain. Things are going to change no matter what. And again, you're focusing on what's possible. What can we change that's possible? But the clients have to want to change. And it also, in this type of therapy, there's a belief that the clients are really the experts in their own therapy. So they have to develop their own goals and even solutions. Again, short term and focus on the future. A client's past history is not really a key part of this type of therapy. But what's going on now? What's the problem? What's the solution? The goals of therapy are really, you want the client to determine how do they want their life to be different and what's it going to take to make it happen, really. It helps, and it helps, allows the client with your assistance to identify their own goals and to construct their own solutions. The therapist's role is to really ask a lot of questions rather than selling your answers, to really look at the client and affirm the strengths that they have, the qualities, what are the resources, what do they have to help solve this problem within themselves, their resources. And you really have to work with what people can do. What can they do? Not everybody can do everything. What can this person do to address this problem? You want to really look at the behaviors the client is already engaging in that are helpful and that have been effective. There may be some behaviors or some things they've learned with another problem that can apply to this one. And you really want to look at the details of the solution rather than the details of the problem. How are we going to fix this? And then, the action plans that are developed have to be a collaboration between the client and the therapist. The client is not the boss, really. I mean, the therapist is not the boss. The client is really in charge here with your assistance. There's some questions that are used for the client just to help them kind of get going in the right direction. When you first start on therapy, there's what they call joining questions, and this is really you establishing what do you need. And from there, one of the big questions asked in this type of therapy is the miracle question. One night, there's a miracle. You wake up, and the problem you brought to therapy is solved. So when you wake up that morning, how would you know that it's solved? What would tell you that it's solved, and what would you notice different that would let you know this miracle has occurred? This gives the client the opportunity to really imagine life without this problem, and that's very motivating. An exception question is when they look back and they say, what was a time when this problem wasn't a problem or was a very little problem? What was that like? How did you feel? Scaling questions really allows them to kind of, from their own opinion, state, things like how bad the problem is. If you're drinking, on a scale of 1 to 10 with, 10 being the worst, where do you say your drinking problem is right now? And they say an 8, and I would say, then you can ask, how can we get you to move from an 8 to a 7? It makes them think, what can I do? Because sometimes it's just one thing. And you really look at the future. How will things be better after this is resolved? What's down the road for you then? And there's some coping. You look at, okay, this is really hard. But you're managing. Tell me how you're managing to keep going with their life. So these are just reinforcing questions that helps the client look at themselves, look at where they are and where they can go. I just want to go over one exercise. I do one thing different exercise that is used during this type of therapy. And the step 1 is to think about the things you do when you have this a problem. So let's say somebody is a binge eater. So what do you do when you have this problem? Well, let's say the person says, I go to I immediately go to a fast food restaurant. I usually stop at the grocery store on the way home. And then I start, and then they may list a lot of other things. So what is one thing in this scenario that you can change? Maybe they say, I'm not going to go to the fast food restaurant. Think of something that somebody else did who had this problem. What did they do? How was that? Is there something they did or something you've done in the past that might help you with this? And this person might say, well, in the past, I did have this in the past, but when I would feel that urge to binge eat, I would go on a walk. I would call a friend, help them identify something they've done to help with that problem or something they've seen somebody else do. You can help them identify their feelings, but then recognize that, how do you feel when this is happening? Well, I feel really stressed and I just feel like everything's coming down on me. And, it's just comfortable. But then I end up feeling out of control. This is helping them to identify what their feelings are, how these feelings get them into trouble. How can they identify these feelings but not go with these feelings? They might have feelings like, well, I'm so stressed, I can't lose weight anyway, so I'm just going to eat. Step 4 might be to kind of think of something they're focusing on too much, or thinking something they should focus on instead. So this binge eater might say, well, I'm focusing on hiding, not letting my family know how much I'm doing. I'm really preoccupied with that. I hide my trash. You might say, well, what's something you could focus on? Well, maybe I could focus on something else. Maybe my house has gotten maybe messy. Maybe I could spend some time when I would be binge eating, doing some cleaning, or maybe I could spend some more time with my spouse. Ask them what's something they could focus on that would be a positive thing rather than what they've been focusing on. Another thing you can do is have them imagine the future in which they have this problem that they have right now, and then kind of work backward as to how they got there. Think of how their life would be different if they didn't have this binge eating problem. And then think of one thing that you would be doing differently once you get this under control. Another thing is to help them think of not to blame others for their problem, but to accept a responsibility. There's another thing is if they believe in a higher power, to help them seek that higher power for help in solving this problem, and to really use action talk. What are you going to do? Not, well, I feel this way and this way and this way, but okay, what are you going to do? So that's just one exercise used in these brief solution-focused therapy, again, the focus is not what got you here. It's not the past. It's not your trauma even. This is not a trauma-focused therapy. The focus is on what is your problem? What do you want differently? What are the solutions to get there? And I wanted to end with this quote that I really like. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So part of this is not only changing your behavior, but changing your thinking. Well, I feel like everybody is that nobody really likes me. So I'm just, I'm just isolating. I feel like that they're talking about me. I feel, that thinking got this person into isolation. How can we change our thinking to get them out of whatever the problem is? All right. Thank you very much.